When I accepted the contract, I thought it was a joke. No human had ever been hired to guard a Zyrati queen before, especially not during the night cycle. The Zyrati were taller, stronger, faster, and far more dangerous than we were. Their queens ruled for centuries, protected by entire orders of elite warriors who never slept, never questioned, and never failed. So when the summons came, I assumed someone had made a clerical error. They hadn't. "You will stand watch inside the royal chamber," the steward told me, his 4 eyes unblinking. "From dusk to dawn. Inside. Not outside the door. Not in the corridor. Inside the queen's private chamber." "And if I refuse?" I asked. The steward tilted his head. "You would be returned to human space. Alive. But the queen would be disappointed." That was enough to make my stomach sink. On Zyrath, disappointing the queen was more dangerous than refusing outright. So I agreed. Queen Isrin ruled the Zyrati Dominion with a reputation that crossed galaxies. They said she ended rebellions with a sentence, wars with a glance. They said she never trusted anyone, not even her own kind. I expected her to be cold. I did not expect her to be tired. The chamber was vast, lit by soft bioluminescence that pulsed like a heartbeat. The queen stood near the observation window when I entered, her tall silhouette framed by the stars. Her armor was ceremonial tonight, lighter, less imposing, but still unmistakably royal. "You are the human," she said without turning. "Yes, Your Majesty." "You will guard me while I sleep." "Yes, Your Majesty." A pause. "Remove your armor." I froze. "My armor?" "You cannot rest properly while encased in metal," she said calmly. "And I require you alert, not stiff." I obeyed, heart pounding, placing my gear neatly aside. She finally turned to face me. Up close, Queen Isrin was different. Still terrifying, yes, but her eyes held something I hadn't expected. Not suspicion. Not contempt. Fatigue. "Where will you stand?" I asked. She studied me for a long moment. "Beside me," she said. My brain stalled. "Beside the bed?" "Yes." I swallowed. "With respect, Your Majesty, that seems necessary," she finished. "You are not here to fight assassins. You are here because you are human." I didn't understand then. She dismissed the attendants herself, something no Zyrati queen ever did. When the chamber doors sealed, the silence became heavy. She lay down, her massive form resting on the living platform that served as her bed. I stood rigidly beside it, hands clasped, eyes forward. "You may sleep," she said. "I'm on duty." "You will fail if you do not," she replied. I hesitated, then carefully lay down on the far edge, not touching, barely breathing. Minutes passed, then hours. Finally, she spoke again, quietly. "When I was young," Isrin said, "my mother was murdered in her sleep, poisoned by those sworn to protect her." I turned my head slightly, careful not to intrude. "Since then," she continued, "I have not slept without guards. Yet even they are Zyrati, bound by politics, ambition." Her voice softened. "You are not." "I'm just a soldier," I said. She shook her head slowly. "You are something rarer. You are unimportant." I frowned. "That doesn't sound like a compliment." "To us, it is," she replied. "You have no stake in my throne. No blood claim. No legacy to manipulate." She turned her head to look at me. "You are safe." The realization settled over me slowly. I wasn't there to guard her from enemies. I was there so she could sleep without fear. Night after night, I remained. Sometimes she spoke. Sometimes she didn't. When nightmares came, and they did, I stayed still, grounding, present. No touching. No commands. Just proximity. Word spread. The court whispered. The nobles panicked. A human in the Queen's chamber every night? Scandal was an understatement. Then came the attempt. An assassin bypassed 3 security rings using Zyrati codes. They would have reached the bed, if I hadn't been awake. I didn't fight like a Zyrati. I fought like a human. Desperate. Loud. Unpredictable. I triggered alarms, tackled the intruder, took a blade meant for the Queen. By the time the guards arrived, I was bleeding out on the floor. I remember Queen Isrin kneeling beside me, her hands shaking as she pressed them to my wound. "Do not die," she said, not as a command, but a plea. I survived. When I woke, I was in a medical chamber. The Queen stood beside the bed, her crown removed. "You disobeyed my orders," she said. "I stayed awake," I replied weakly. She laughed softly, a sound no one else had ever heard. The next day, she addressed the court. "This human," she declared, "has done what centuries of warriors could not. He guarded me without desire for power, without fear, without condition." She looked directly at me. "He will remain." Not as a god, but as something closer. At night, I still sleep beside her. Still no touching. Still no commands. But now, when she sleeps peacefully, I understand. Sometimes the most powerful being in the galaxy doesn't need an army. She just needs someone who will stay.